Welcome back to The Explainer. Okay, let's just get this out of the way right up front. You've probably been buying the wrong plants your entire life. Seriously, every single spring, the local garden center sets this massive trap. You know the one, those tables just completely loaded with disposable annuals that are literally bred for one thing, looking spectacular in a tiny 4-inch pot, just long enough for you to pull out your credit card. And then what happens? They fail. It's totally predictable, and man, is it expensive to do this year after year. But today, we are flipping the script. We are talking about 10 lazy Japanese garden perennials that absolutely thrive in pots. You literally plant them once, and you are done forever. Oh, and right off the bat, make sure you figure out your USDA growing zone right now, because your specific climate is going to dictate exactly which of these plants will be the ultimate high performer on your patio.
Okay, let's dive into this whole concept. First up, we've got the garden center trap. You buy a flat of standard annuals, you're out there watering them constantly, and by October, boom, into the trash they go. That is a 100% loss on your investment. But the alternative, the solution here, is what I call the compounding container. Look, serious container gardeners know that Japanese-inspired perennials don't just, merely survive in pots. They actually compound. They get bigger, they divide into totally free plants, and they build these incredibly deep, self-sufficient root systems, to the point where if you forget to water them for 2 weeks, it literally doesn't even matter. We're talking about treating your containers as real biological and, honestly, financial investments.
All right, so let's get into our very first portfolio of plants, the foliage foundation. Our first plant on the list is Japanese forest grass, or Hakonichiloa macra, $60. Now let's do the financial math behind this beauty, all right? A single 4-inch pot at the nursery is going to run you about $14, pretty standard. But get this, by year 3, that single clump has expanded so massively that you can easily divide it into 4 or 5 separate plants. At $12 a pop retail, you have just generated up to $60 of pure plant capital from that one original purchase. You can use them to fill up brand new containers, or, just gift them to your neighbors who are still out there wasting money on those disposable annuals. So, how exactly does it do this? Well, the secret is in its biology. Japanese forest grass is rhizomatous. Basically, that means its root system spreads laterally through these little underground runners. It's just quietly colonizing the entire container right beneath the soil surface. By the second year, this colony is so densely established that it essentially generates its own internal moisture retention system. It's like a built-in underground network that acts as a buffer against both drought and cold snaps. And that right there is the scientific secret to how it survives winters and holds on to its really cool architectural dried blades right through the frost if you're in USDA zones 5 through 9. Let's look at 2 more foundational players here. First, the Japanese painted fern. This one thrives in zones 3 through 8, specifically in the shade. It's deciduous, which means that every year the crown expands into this massive multi-crowned silver, gray, and burgundy specimen that honestly looks like it was hand-painted. It's gorgeous. Now completely contrast that with Japanese bloodgrass. This one is perfect for zones 5 through 9, and unlike the fern, it absolutely loves the sun. It shoots up these narrow, upright blades that transition into this crazy translucent stained glass crimson red right near the tips. For sure, it's one of the most dramatic foliage effects you could possibly achieve in a container garden. Now, what's really interesting about this whole process is the actual biology driving that intense crimson color in the bloodgrass. It's all about anthocyanin. Those are the pigments concentrated right in the upper leaf tissue. As the temperatures start to drop in the fall, anthocyanin production just spikes. And honestly, here is the absolute best part. Complete and utter neglect actually forces better red color. Seriously, no deadheading, no mid-season cutting, 0 fertilizer, nothing. In fact, if you do fertilize this plant, you're just going to push boring green growth instead of that stunning red. You literally get the absolute best results by ignoring it completely. How great is that? Okay, moving right along to our second portfolio, shade and spring performers. When we compare lungwort and astilbe, the differences are super cool. Lungwort, or pulmonaria, blooms way ahead of schedule. We're talking early March and April in zones 3 through 8. But its true superpower, that silver-mottled foliage, it literally acts like a living light box in the dark, shady corners of your patio. Now, astilbe, which is also hardy in zones 3 through 8, gives you these genuine florist-quality feathery plumes later in the summer. But the container advantage for both of these plants is just incredible. See, in the ground, these guys really struggle when you get a dry summer spell. But in a container, your precise moisture control gives lungwort insane resilience, and it produces much bigger, way longer-lasting plumes on your astilbe. It's a total game changer.
And that brings us to what might just be the most underestimated compounding asset in the entire container gardening world, the hosta. Specifically, those really large varieties like Sum and Substance. $96. Think about this. A single original purchase of a small hosta is going to quietly grow so much that by year 4, you can chop it up and divide it into 6 to 8 totally separate plants. At $12 retail for each one, you've just created up to $96 in free plant capital. I mean, it's practically printing money right on your patio. But you might be wondering, why keep hostas in containers instead of just planting them in the yard? Well, it's actually a biologically superior environment for them. For starters, containers completely eliminate slugs, and if you grow hostas, you know slugs are the absolute worst destroyer of their foliage. Being in a pot also totally solves the soil drainage rot that ends up killing ground-planted hostas in really wet, heavy clay. Plus, it gives you complete portability. You can just swap displays around your garden whenever you want. And the maintenance? Literally a single 10-minute spring fertilizer refresh. Just toss a little compost and some slow-release granular fertilizer into the top 2 inches of soil in April, and you are entirely done for the whole year.
Let's transition over into our third and final plant portfolio, architectural and late bloomers. Our next plant perfectly embodies a concept that I absolutely love. The plant gets more beautiful the more you ignore it. I call this the neglect paradox, and it's flawlessly illustrated by the Japanese iris. Look, unlike your standard bearded irises that constantly demand a dry summer dormancy and that really annoying division every 3 years, the Japanese iris actively thrives in wet, soggy container conditions. It throws up these massive horizontal, 6-petaled blooms that honestly look like architectural masterpieces. The clump just quietly expands, the root system gets deeper, and you do absolutely nothing but water it. Seriously, 0 division required. All right, here is a rapid-fire breakdown of our late-season drama makers. The Japanese anemone is going to absolutely shine from late August right on through October, pushing out these delicate, hovering flowers exactly when most other containers are looking totally fried and finished. Next up, the highly underplanted Japanese roof iris. This gives you amazingly adaptable structural fan-shaped foliage all season long, yes, even in dry shade. And then there's Bergania. While literally every other perennial on your porch is going completely dormant, Bergania's thick, kind of cabbage-like leaves hold their bold structure. In fact, they actually start preparing to push out pink flowers before winter is even officially over if you're in zones 3 through 8. And this brilliantly illustrates the hidden power of these perennial containers. Through this amazing cellular engineering, cold weather actually triggers an intense red pigmentation in the Bergania. And get this, it's not a sign of stress. It's a genius biological response that the plant uses to physically protect its leaf tissue from freeze damage. So the colder the temperatures get, the deeper and richer that burgundy color becomes, which means your absolute most neglected freezing pot in the middle of January organically transforms into your most striking architectural display of the whole year. Nature is wild, right? Finally, we need to talk about the critical protection phase, 3 fatal container mistakes. So the absolutely crucial point here is protecting those root systems and all that plant capital you've worked so hard to build. Mistake number 1, using small winter containers. You really need a pot that is at least 16 inches in diameter to provide enough soil mass to actually act as insulation against hard freezes. Mistake number 2, using black plastic pots in direct sun. And mistake number 3, overzealous fall cleanup. Let's break down exactly why those last 2, in particular, are so incredibly deadly to your garden. 130 degrees Fahrenheit. Yep. On a hot summer afternoon, the soil inside a black plastic container sitting out in direct sun can easily hit this absolutely devastating temperature. The crazy thing is, you won't even see the damage from the outside until it's way, way too late. But underneath that soil line, you are invisibly boiling your root systems alive. Just switching to light-colored containers or fabric grow bags or glazed ceramics can literally double the long-term health and productivity of every single container you own. It's such a simple fix. And then we have the dreaded fall cleanup trap. I know. The instinct is to just cut everything down to the dirt in October so your patio looks all tidy and neat. Stop doing this. Fall cleanup completely destroys vital winter crown insulation. Leaving those dried fern fronds and standing grass structures is actually a biological necessity for the plants. It insulates the crown to prevent freeze-thaw death, all while providing you with some really striking architectural beauty all winter long. Plus, those seed heads you leave behind, they are an essential food source that your local birds desperately depend on to survive the coldest months of the year.
And there you have it. That is the system. 10
Lazy Japanese garden perennials that flat out thrive in pots. You plant them once, and you are done forever. You get a container garden that compounds in value, in beauty, and in complexity every single season without demanding more of your precious time. So, what is your USDA growing zone, and which of these 10 compounding plants are you going to add to your portfolio first? Lock in your investment strategy right now. Keep learning, get those roots in the soil, and we will catch you in the next explainer.